To understand what true happiness is, let's discuss first what the four levels of happiness are. My reference is from Father Robert Spitzer's Four Levels of Happiness. According to Father Spitzer, God has placed a desire within us that transcends this physical world and goes beyond this physical world to the spirit world where God is. So, this desire that God has placed in us, Father Spitzer calls transcendental desire. And in this desire, we seek a happiness that is beyond this physical world. This desire can only be filled up by God Himself, who placed it in us. So only God can fill up this transcendental desire that He placed in our soul. Now let's take a look at the four levels of happiness. Each of these four levels offer a source of happiness for a person. Let's find out which of these four levels can fill up this transcendental desire that is found in us. Let's go to the first level of happiness. Level 1 happiness has sensual pleasure as the main source of happiness. The duration in level 1 happiness is immediate. Examples of level 1 happiness are those that is experienced through the senses. For example, material things, adventure, thrills, lots of money, games, lust. A common theme for this level 1 is that the happiness brought here to the person is immediate and only of short duration. The second level of happiness, level 2 happiness, has achievement being the main source of happiness. So, having achieved something um, brings about happiness in the ego. The duration of happiness in level 2 is only short term. Examples of level 2 happiness are those that are or pleasure that are derived by having achieved something and making him the center of attraction. So this person is happy because he is looked up by everybody else. He is the winner. He is the top person. He is the dominant player. And that is what makes this person happy. So this happiness in level 2 is egocentric. Unfortunately, our contemporary culture is predominantly at level 2. All the different marketing strategies, all the different corporations, they seem to push for level 2 happiness. And that is what we see in the televisions, in the movies, and in certain books or development learning centers. So they are all about self and the ego. How about the third level of happiness? So in level 1, the happiness is focused on pleasure of the senses, and the duration of happiness is immediate. In level 2, the focus of the happiness is on the ego, And happiness is brought about by achievement of something that boosts the ego. The duration of happiness in level 2 is short term. In level 3, the focus is on being able to contribute for the good of others, and this brings happiness to the person. The duration of happiness in level 3 is long term. Examples of level 3 are, so they join volunteer groups or make donations, old clothes, or they join in work, volunteer work, and the objective is to help other people. Sometimes, however, they do this to make them feel good. So sometimes the objective is returns back to them, and sometimes the focus is really on them because they want to feel good being able to help others. In level 4, happiness. So this is the highest level. In level 4, this is the ultimate good. The ultimate good is the source of happiness. And when you have this ultimate good as the source of happiness, the duration of happiness is enduring. The transcendental desire that was placed in us by God can only be met by having the ultimate good as the source of happiness. And the happiness brought about by the ultimate good is enduring. Examples of level 4 happiness are those that we see among saints, where the objective of their happiness is God Himself. Being able to do the will of God is the one that makes them happy. God Himself is the source of their happiness, and this happiness brought about by this ultimate good who is God brings in enduring happiness. So if we take a look at this diagram, we can see here that the first three cannot satisfy the transcendental desire. Many people look in these three lower levels of happiness and try to fill up this transcendental desire, and then they would end up not really being happy, or the happiness that they achieve is only short short term or immediate or long term, but it ends. In level 4, the happiness brought about by God Himself, the ultimate good, the happiness is enduring. It stays with you until the end. This is where we find the saints. The saints, the happiness in the saints are being able to do the will of God, and it is God Himself that is the source of their happiness. And so it is God, the ultimate good Himself, is the one that can fill up our transcendental desire. The other lower three levels are not able to fill up this transcendental desire. It is only God Himself, and this is level 4 happiness. So let's give a little reflection. What level of happiness do people with addiction belong? Where do you think is their level of happiness? Many people not only have one source of happiness, some have two or three or even four. meaning they go through these four levels seeking out their happiness. Now, the question really there is, what is the dominant type of happiness? So, the dominant type of happiness is the one that the go to, always the go to, where you always seek happiness. So, is it level one, the pleasure of the senses? Is this your dominant source of happiness? Or is it ego, where you need to constantly pamper your ego to make yourself happy? Or is the part that you want to help others so that you want to feel good? Is this the dominant form of happiness? Or is God Himself as the dominant source of happiness? Now we can also see the difference between the love that someone has in these four levels of happiness. For example, in level 1 happiness, while you are in the slower form of happiness, which is happiness brought about by pleasure of the senses, love sometimes is described as more of feelings. On the other hand, love in level 4, where God Himself, the ultimate good, is the source of happiness. Here, love is more of the will. It is the will and not feelings, which is the type of love is more of based on the will of the person. Now, let's take a look at the difference between the orientation. When you are in the level 1 or the lower levels of happiness, the orientation is shifted to the self. When you are in level 4 happiness, the orientation shifts away from self and goes to God. So it's not the self but in God that the person is oriented. Now, let's make a short reflection so we can try to apply in our life these sources of happiness. So, in this reflection, I want you to think of four people. The first person has a dominant level 1 happiness. The second person has a dominant level 2 happiness. The third person has a level 3 dominant happiness. And the last one, the fourth person, has a level 4 dominant happiness. So I want you to reflect on what if all of them had cancer and had a few weeks to live. So they have the same question. What would be the effect of cancer on the type of dominant happiness that they have? Would they be sad? Would they be devastated, depressed? Or would they be more happy knowing that their life would end soon? So I want you to think of an answer and reflect on this question, hypothetical question, and I hope this would help you. If you have more questions about theology, please visit our YouTube channel, Theology Explained for Beginners. Thank you very much.